When we were taking some pictures of the waterfall, there was ice there, black ice that I didn't see, and I came a cropper, so I've hurt my back and I'm in a bit of pain, especially with this rucksack on. So yeah, hiking can be dangerous. Today's walk is Pendle Hill, but possibly in an eerie premonition of what's to come. It is incredibly foggy here today. Okay, it's cold out. So, during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, a law was decreed to say that anybody involved in witchcraft should be sentenced, and anybody who causes harm by witchcraft would be executed. Roll forward to the beginning of the 17th century, and a series of events occurred here in the area of Pendle that was to bring about the execution of almost a dozen people for witchcraft. What on earth happened? Let's go and investigate. Welcome to the Pendle Witches. We've come to Barley in the borough of Pendle, Lancashire, in the forest of the Bowland area. It's a very clear, sunny day. It is cold, but that's fine. And we're just starting on the route to follow the trail of the Pendle Witches. Pendle Hill in East Lancashire, nestled between the towns of Burnley, Colne, Clitheroe and Padiham, is an isolated hill in the English Pennines. It's detached but still considered part of the Forest of Bowland's area of outstanding beauty. The early 17th century was a time of mysticism where people believed in witches and witchcraft, and the laws were enacted during the reign of Elizabeth I to hang all witches who caused harm. Now, with this being the case, many people still proclaim to be witches in order to be able to raise money, to make money for a living, to create potions and spells and such have you. And it's under this sort of conditions that lent itself rife to what was about to happen. Now, we're in the time of James I. He too believes in witches, believes that his ship had been set sail but forced back in a storm trying to get to the trial of some witches. So he's a big believer in witchcraft. And then a Justice of the Peace is appointed here in the Pendle region to oversee witchcraft and witches and oversee the peace. Oh my goodness. Right, we have just come from an incredibly steep climb. Oh my goodness, that was that had worn me out. But anyway, how much further we got to go? We've only just been started. That's how much further. Let me have a look. What direction do we need to be going in? Right, we're heading down this way. So, come on, don't just hang around. Let's have a look. Here we go, this is the way we're heading. Seems to be some sort of mist rising from over there. Mist over Pendle, who'd have thought? So that's not Pendle, but anyway, let's start heading down this way. In the early 17th century, every Justice of the Peace was ordered to compile a list of people who refused to attend Church of England communion, then considered a criminal offence. The local JP, a career man named Roger Nowell, wanted to make a name for himself. The Justice of the Peace was called upon to investigate allegations of witchcraft from a peddler who claimed he'd been harmed by one of the women in the villages surrounding the Pendle area around Barley. Many of the people who became wrapped up in the allegations did indeed consider themselves to be witches. However, this was anything but uncommon in rural England. Demdike, one of the accused, had been considered to be a witch for over half a century. Demdike's daughter, Alison Device, met a peddler, John Law, and asked him for some pins. Pins were expensive but required for magical purposes. However, Law refused to sell them to her. Shortly after he declined, Law fell to the ground, possibly the result of a stroke. He regained his footing and made his way to a local inn. The peddler's son took his father to visit Device a few days later, where she allegedly confessed to using witchcraft against him and begged him for forgiveness. 10 witches were executed here from the Ribble Valley, from the Pendle Hill region. The names Demdike, Devices and Alice Nutter will be forever etched in local folklore. So, oh dear, when we're taking a photo of the waterfall, let's see if I can get better lighting. Hi, maybe this is better. When we're taking some pictures of the waterfall, there was ice there, black ice that I didn't see, and I came a copper, so I've hurt my back and I'm in a bit of pain, especially with this rucksack on. So yeah, hiking can be dangerous. The Demdike family was summoned to appear before Noel in March 1612. During their meeting, Alison was forced to confess she'd sold her soul to the devil and had called upon him to harm John Law. James, the brother of Alison, claimed his sister had cast a spell on a local child. When asked about Alice Whittle, the head of another local family, Alison saw her chance for revenge. The two families were feuding for over a decade after one of Whittle's family broke into Malkin Tower, the home of the Devices, stealing £1 worth of goods. She claimed Whittle had murdered 4 men using witchcraft and of killing her father, John Device. Alison claimed the family had paid the Whittles protection not to harm them, but on the year John hadn't paid for protection, he died. On his deathbed, John claimed this was a curse brought about by Whittle. Witnesses as young as 9 years old came forward to give testimony against the witches. It was a death sentence. Noel committed Demdike, Whittle and Devices to Lancaster jail to be tried for sorcery, causing harm by witchcraft at the next assizes. I've just come from that hill up there. Oh my goodness, I'm out of breath. I'm very out of breath, and it is getting quite cool. Clouds are coming in. I wouldn't be surprised if we get rain. So, time to hurry back to the car. Probably got about an hour left to get to the car. The matter would have been considered closed with the committal and trial of the women, but unfortunately Elizabeth Devices organised a meeting at Malkin Tower, home of the Demdikes. James Device stole a sheep to feed those who attended the meeting. When Roger Noel found out about the meeting, he and fellow magistrate Nicholas Bannister set about to discover the purpose of the meeting and who had been there. A further 8 people were then accused of witchcraft and sent to trial, including Alice Nutter. Whilst the others pleaded guilty, Nutter protested her innocence. The witches, along with some from the area of Salisbury, were tried in Yorkshire and in Lancashire. Alice Device was accused in court by John Law. She faced her accuser and genuinely believed in her own witchcraft. She pleaded guilty. The witches were all found guilty and hung. The early 17th century was a dark time for magic. There was much belief in mysticism, Satanism, magic and witches. And it's in this era, these beliefs, that brought about the execution of 10 people for witchcraft. Since recording this video, my back wasn't getting any better, so I phoned the doctors up and they told me to go and get an x-ray. And it turns out, after visiting the local hospital, that I've broken my tailbone, my coccyx. So that explains why I'm in so much pain. Was I cursed by the Pendle Witches? But anyway, you may have noticed in some of the clips that I was using my iPhone for navigation. And you think, well, why not take paper? Well, I thought I'd got this covered. So I got the Ordnance Survey app and I plotted the route on the computer, and then that had uploaded to the phone. I then downloaded the maps here, so that way if we got that and there was no data signal, that would be fine. I would be able to just use the map anyway. But when I got there, the map hadn't downloaded and there wasn't a strong enough data signal. So at first, I couldn't even find where I was. So I thought, I know, I'll use the iPad, because I take my iPad with me. And the iPad has it's on a completely separate network. And it had a fairly decent signal. But the route I'd picked and loaded to the cloud hadn't picked up on the app on the iPad. So I was I had to wait around for quite a while just for all the data to download. And then as we were doing the walk, it was fine. It kept me updated. But then I was on a straight road and they had told me to go down this straight road, which was absolutely right, because I could see the sign to say Barley. But when I looked at the phone again, it told me to go in the opposite direction, the way I'd just come. And that was absolutely wrong. And you can't say, oh, well, you're surrounded by big buildings, maybe the GPS wasn't working. Because I was in the open. I was in the outdoors. So I ignored that and then followed the sign which said Barley, which I was lucky that I had that. And then eventually, as I'm getting closer to the car park to return to the car, it logged me out. So when I opened up the Ordnance Survey app, I was completely logged out, password and username required, and I put those in, but the signal wasn't strong enough to let me log in. So if I hadn't been close to where I was heading, I might have been stuffed. So I think the moral is that even though I'd taken a phone, a spare phone, an iPad and a 4 times battery charger just in case any of these devices ran out of juice, they still let me down. So always take a map and compass as well. Don't rely on technology. And I love technology. I really thought that was a good idea. Had taken all these redundant backup systems and they entirely failed. Good job I was never in charge of the space mission. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click on the like button, click on the subscribe button, click on the alert button for when the next video comes up. And don't forget you can watch me and ask me questions about any of these walks. Twitch.tv/AKCSL. That's my live production. It's every Monday, Thursday and Saturday. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye.